Okay. So I need someone to light the candles. Who would like to light the candles?
Isn't there a song before?
Lori,
Yeah, there's a
thank
song
you. And
first.
I need someone to do the kiddush.
In this house.
Morris has been volunteered by his wife.
No, you can come do the kiddush. I'm doing the kiddush, like the wine. That's what.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm doing that. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to turn.
I thought you meant the candles.
Yeah, you can do both. Okay, folks, I'm turning.
What's so funny?
Oh, no, wait a minute.
And remember, an also shah, we'll do it a little faster.
What's that?
Also shah. Slow shah divarim. Al slow shah divarim.
Okay, folks, this is what's going to happen. We're going to hear you through my computer,
Good. Yep. Good.
okay? So try to keep muted unless you have something to say. Otherwise, we're going to hear a lot of extraneous noise, okay? Thank you. This is all a work in progress. Okay.
Did you start the YouTube stream? Yes. Oh, good. Okay. Good.
Okay, so we're beginning. We're beginning.
Make sure there's a D major chord.
Welcome, everybody, here and on Zoom. Oh, more people coming. Hi there. Shabbat Shalom. It's kind of nice to be back, although it's kind of this strange limbo time when we're kind of back, but we don't know what's going to happen because of Delta, so enjoy it while you can, right? Okay. We're going to begin with "In This House." And the words are there.
All right, we want this to be as participatory as possible. So if you can all clap. Are you okay?
Nick, do they have the words on Zoom? I don't see it.
Yes. Oh.
Okay.
Maybe you need to be in
right,
speaker mode.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is.
If you're in speaker mode, then you can see the words. Spotlight. Yeah, that's better.
There we go. All right, so all of you in here, clap with me, okay? Good, just like that, okay. Okay, here we go. Some of you should know this song. We haven't done it for a couple of years, but it's very repetitive, so you'll be able to keep up when we do the chorus. Are you ready? Okay, here we go. In this house, it all comes together in this house. In this house, it all comes together in this house of God. Different key than what I chose. In this house beats the heart of a family. In this house is the center of a community. We study and we pray, find meaning in each day. In this house, in this house, in this house. In this house is the spark of God's creation. In this house there is joy and celebration. By song or by word, your prayers will be heard. In this house, in this house, in this house. Here we go. In this house, it all comes together in this house. In this house, it all comes together in this house of God. In this house beats the heart, can clothe and feed. In this house there is always help for those in need. A stranger makes a friend, becomes inspired again. In this house, in this house, in this house. Here we go. In this house, it all comes together in this house. In this house, it all comes together in this house of God. study, a house of prayer, a house of gathering from everywhere. How lovely is your dwelling place, O Jacob. Blessing upon blessing, build these walls. Here we go. In this house, it all comes together in this house. In this house, it all comes together in this house of God. In this house.
My vote is that we hire Morris as our permanent cantor. What do y'all say?
Oh,
Yeah.
Don't answer that.
Okay. So Lori Magnus is going to light the Shabbat candles, which is on page 120 if you have the prayer book, or you can look up at the screen. Can you change the, okay.
Is that my cup?
Give light. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we by our lives give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light. It just got louder.
Sure.
Asher Kiddushon of the Mitzvotav, that Sivanu Lehadlik Ner Shel Shabbat. Amen. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to light the light of Shabbat.
So Morris is going to,
Okay.
oh, you're doing it over there, sorry.
Oh, can I do it over here?
Of course you can do it over there. Morris is going to lead us in the Kiddush, which is page 123, or on the screen.
It's a little higher. Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, b'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon hinkilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reshit, ki hu yom tehila lemikrae kodesh, zecher litziat mitzrayim, ki vanu v'acharta, ve'otanu kidashta, Mikol Hamim v'Shabbat Kodshecha v'Ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabat Amen. Okay.
Yum, huh?
Apple juice. Nice. This hasn't been sitting around for a month, has it? No? Okay. So we haven't done a live service.
No, we haven't been holding on to it for a month. We don't want to kill you with apple juice. So at the beginning of this week's Torah portion, which is called Ekev, Moses paints a beautiful picture of the promised land, which the Israelites are about to enter. For Adonai, your God, is bringing you into a good land, a land with streams and springs and fountains issuing from plain and hill, a land of wheat and barley, of vines and figs and pomegranates, a land of olive trees and honey, a land where you may eat food without stint, where you will lack nothing. When you have eaten your fill, give thanks to God for the good land that God has given you. And this is the basis, this paragraph, for the Birkat Hamazon, the prayer of thanksgiving after a meal, which we often forget to do here, but we'll try to do better in the future. According to the Hasidic Rebbe, Menachem Mendel of Kotsk, this is the fundamental mitzvah, because all people should be capable of feeling grateful that the earth has produced food for them. So gratitude, always an important mitzvah, an important midah, to a character trait to develop. L'chadodi, we're welcoming the Sabbath bride, and for the last paragraph, we're going to rise and face the door to welcome the Sabbath bride.
If you're in the book, it's page 138, I think.
Sorry, yeah.
I think, and we're doing verses 1, 2, 3, and then we'll fast forward to 9, so we won't do all of them.
Can we get the words up there?
All right. All right, so this one's also participatory. You'll all be singing the chorus, which is very easy, and once you hear the first time, you will know exactly how to do it for each time, okay? Starting chord. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, pene pene Shabbat nekavela. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, pene pene Shabbat nekavela la la. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, pene pene Shabbat nekavela. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, pene pene Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, השמיענו אל המיוחד, אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ולתפארת ולהתהלל לך דודי, לקראת לקראת קלה, פני פני שבת נקבלה. לך לך דודי, לקראת לקראת קלה, פני פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי מקור הברכה מראש מקרן נסוכה. סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה לה 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 לה. לך דודי לקראת לקראת קלה, פני פני שבת נקבלה. לך לך דודי לקראת לקראת קלה, פני פני שבת נקבלה. מקדש מלך עיר מלוכה, קומי צאי מתוך ההפכה, רב לך שבט בעמק הבכה, והוא יקמול עלייכם לה 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 לה. לך דודי לקראת לקראת קלה, פני פני שבת נקבלה. לך לך דודי לקראת לקראת קלה, פני פני שבת נקבלה. Now is the chance for everyone. Please arise and welcome the Sabbath bride as we sing the last verse. בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה. תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לך דודי, לך לקראת קלה, פני פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת קלה, פני פני שבת נקבלה. לה לה. לך דודי, לקראת קלה, פני פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
Now, despite the glorious picture that Moses presents of the land of Israel, the truth of the matter is that conditions in Israel were far from ideal. Unlike Mesopotamia and Egypt, which had rivers to irrigate the land, Israel depends on rain. So the weather there, as you may know, is very similar to the weather of Riverside. You can see what a gamble counting on rain might have been. The fact that rain was irregular and unpredictable affected the Israelites' sense of time. As explained by Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, in a place like Mesopotamia or Egypt, where nature was regular, time was seen as cyclical, the same things occurring over and over again. In Israel, by contrast, since there was no guarantee that this year would be like the last, a new sense of time was born, the time that we call historical, which meant that things could evolve and develop. Nothing had to stay the same. This is the radical lesson of the Exodus. Just because you were a slave did not mean that you had to spend the rest of your life as a slave. A great sense of liberation. The Chatzi Kaddish is page 263, or possibly on the slide.
It's an experiment, it's okay. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, ועלמא דברה חירותי, וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון, ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בגלה, ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך, לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה, יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר בקרומם, ויתנשא, ויתהדר, ויתעלה, ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה בריחו, לעילם מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמה, ואמרו אמן.
And please rise for the Baruch Hu, the next page.
Ya la la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la. Baruchu et Adonai Hamevorach. Together. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach. Le'olam va'ed. Le'olam, 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 le'olam. Ya la 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 la. Ya la la. Ya la la la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la la. Ya la la la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la la. Ya la la la. Ya la 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 la.
Please be seated. So our Torah portion reminds us, take care lest you forget Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, your God, and fail to keep God's commandments, which I enjoin upon you today. Lest when you have eaten your fill, and have built your fine houses, and your herds and flocks have multiplied, and your silver and gold have increased, and everything you own has prospered, beware your heart grow haughty and forget Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, your God. And you say to yourselves, my own power. Remember, President Obama said, you didn't build that? It's not all about everything you did. There's a lot of system behind what you're doing, and they knew this right back then in the Torah. My own power and my own might of my own hand have won this wealth for me. Remember that it is Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, your God, who gives you the power to get wealth and fulfillment of the covenant that God made on oath with your fathers, as is still the case. According to the Ishbitzer, who's a Hasidic master, this is also true in the really important area of spirituality. When we experience divine blessing flowing to us without any devotions on our part, and it appears to us that we don't need religion or spiritual practice, we are told, revere Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, your God. God does not deliver blessings for free. God only pours forth blessing to us in response to those prayers and devotions. We have to perform them, and only because of them does God give us blessing. But if we were then to tell ourselves that we're able to serve God on our own, on the basis of our own power, without divine assistance, Scripture warns, remember that it is Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, your God, who gives you power. In other words, if we want to reach a level of spirituality, if we hope that prayer can offer us solace and guidance, we cannot get there on our own. We need to acknowledge that there is a greater force out there, God, and without partnering with God, our efforts will certainly come to naught. Now, this theology is a little trickier when it comes to material prosperity. I don't think that God engages in quid pro quos. You pray to me and you'll receive something like a good harvest. I think it's more complicated than that. It goes something along the lines of, you respect my land on which you are a tenant, you treat its inhabitants, my children, with justice, and your society will be a healthy one in which people will thrive. Ahavat Olam is page 266.
Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amecha Ahavta Amcha Ahavta Torah u'mitzvot Hukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadeta Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shokvenu u'kumenu nasiach behukecha v'nismak b'divrei toratecha ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד כי הם yameinu uvahem nege yomam v'layla nege yomam v'layla ve'ahavatcha al tasir mimenu le'olamim Baruch atah Adonai Ohev Amo Yisrael Ohev Amo
Please rise for the Shema.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Please be seated except for Carol Lee. Would you like to lead us in the Avei Haftarah, please? Nick, is it possible to make the prayer the main thing on there? The Avei Haftarah?
Everybody join me, please. Nochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha uvlechtecha v'derech uvshochbecha uvkumecha Ukshartam leot al yadecha vehayu letotafot beinenecha Uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha Laman tiskaru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai Vitem kedoshim lelohechem Ani Adonai Elohechem Asher hotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem. Oh, thank you. I heard you. That was great.
I hope you folks out there were also So our Torah portion includes an important paragraph. So if you faithfully obey all my commandments that I'm giving you today, to love Adonai your God and to serve God with all your heart and with all your soul, then I will send rain on your land in its season, both autumn and spring rains, so that you may gather in your grain, new wine, and olive oil. I will provide grass in the fields for your cattle, and you will eat and be satisfied. Be careful, or you will be enticed to turn away and worship other gods and bow down to them. Then God's anger will burn against you, and God will shut up the heavens so that it will not rain, and the ground will yield no produce, and you will soon perish from the good land that God is giving you. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Anybody recognize where that's from? Yes? Well, as sort of the previous prayer. The part we cut out. Very good. Exactly. So the Shema actually consists of Shema Yisrael, Ve'ahavta, this paragraph. And the Reform movement said, no, right? Who wants to say twice a day that you'll be punished with starvation if you don't obey God's commandments? But there was actually a lot of discussion over this prayer book, which is now, I guess, about 15, 20 years old, the new prayer book. There was a lot of discussion about putting that paragraph back in because you can understand it ecologically, right? If you don't respect the land, hello, what have we done? Exactly, right? Look at how much we've dried up this land out here. So you could understand it ecologically. It's not God's punishment, but it's a consequence of our behavior. However, the decision was no in the end. I think it's actually in our High Holiday prayer book. So different editors, different ideas about what's okay theologically. But I think really the Torah was really prescient, right? If you don't respect the land and the resources of the land, guess what's going to happen? And we're seeing the consequences right now. So let's think about being liberated from all of those constraints as we sing the Micha Mocha, the Song of the Sea.
O mi chamocha, va'yelim Adonai. O mi kamocha, nedar b'kodesh. O nora tehilot, osef eleh. O nora tehilot. Osef Eleh, won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? 'Cause all I ever had, redemption songs, these songs of freedom. Malchutecha Ra'uvanecha bokeh yam lifnei Moshe ozeli anu ve'amru Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? 'Cause all I ever had, redemption songs, these songs of freedom, redemption songs.
So in order to be open enough to hear God and to follow in God's ways, Moses asks us to, in effect, circumcise our hearts. Rachel Barenblatt, a rabbi, has written this poem in response to that requirement. It's called Callous. And she's basing it on the verse, "Cut away, therefore, the thickening about your hearts, and stiffen your necks no more." But these calluses are hard won. They protect me from the places where the world rubs me raw. Without my shrug, my humor, my insistence that this too shall pass, I'll feel exposed, my heart pumping, where any stranger could see me. Couldn't you ask for something easy? Once I open my locked chest, what if I just fly apart? The Shamru. We celebrate Shabbat, a time when maybe we can let our hearts be open.
Is that an E7 chord? E7. Oh, sharp. Play it again. Sorry. There, I didn't hear that. I just needed that leading tone. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. בני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
And we rise for the tefillah. Begins page 273. Hopefully you can just follow on the screen.
Adonai sefatai, sefatai tiftach, ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai Sefatai, Sefatai Tiftach, Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah. Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim ve'Konei HaKol, ve'Zocher Hazeh Avot ve'Imahot, u'Mevi Geula livnei v'neihem leman Shemo be'ahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshia u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Abraham ve'Ezrat Sarah, atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol atah Rav leHoshia, Morid HaTahal, Mechalkel Chayim bechesed, Mechayeh HaKol ve'rachamim rabim, Somech noflim ve'rofeh cholim, u'matir asurim, u'mekayem emunato lishenei afar, michamocha ba'al gevurot, u'midom elach, melech meimit, u'mekayeh, u'matzmiach Yeshua, ve'ne'eman atah lechachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, mechayeh hakol, atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim v'chol yom li'hallelujah se'ela, Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh.
And we continue silently for a few moments. You may read the words in the books, or you may just meditate from your heart. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. We take a moment now to think of those in need of healing, whether of body, of mind, or of spirit. We think of congregants and friends and family of congregants: Jonathan Davidson, Ben Henderson, Kara Gilman, Rabbi Steve Robbins, Gloria Mangus, Steve Lux, Leslie Ferris, Pamela Mangus, Johnny Sikat, Roberta Gershon, Bill Oppenheim, Sid Love, Larry Miller, Regina Richards, Judy Cronenfeld, Myrna Pavelak, Jeff Simons, Esperanza Moriel, Harav Hana Rachel Bat Rosa Wolf, Stephen Strauss, Kelly Work. Does anyone have names to add? And anybody in, let's see, I've got some names in the chat. Let me see if I can get up there. Okay, we have Ruth and Sandra Landis, Greg Young, Amy Morton, Jess Landis, Ron Jones, Leslie Thomas, Kim Coe, Raul Camacho, Ann Craven. And if anyone wants to unmute and say a name, please do so. I already said Judy Cronenfeld, but we'll say her again. Double blessings for her. Anybody? Okay, please join us in the Misha Berach, the prayer for healing.
Refana lanu El na refana lanu Dear God of our ancestors,
Dear God of our ancestors,
help us renew our faith. Help us renew our faith. Grant us a perfect healing. Grant us a perfect healing. Bring peace to all our days. El na refana la, refana lanu. Restore our strength of body. Help clarify our minds. Refresh our tired spirits. Rejuvenate our light. El na refana la, refana lanu. El na refana la, refana lanu. Thank you for all these blessings throughout our days and nights. We celebrate the journey, this precious gift of life. El na na la, refana lanu. El na refana la, refana lanu. One more time, everybody. El na refana la, refana lanu. la Rafana lanu.
Does anybody know where that line comes from, El Na Rafan Allah? Anybody? It comes from, oh, go ahead, Andrea. Right. After Miriam and Aaron talked nasty about Moses' wife, and she gets struck with some sort of leprosy type thing, and Moses asked God to heal her. Of course, Aaron doesn't get struck with leprosy. That's a whole other story. We won't go there. So, as I mentioned earlier, our Torah portion, indeed the Shema itself, includes a disturbing theology. If Israel follows God's commandments, all will be well, it will rain, and there will be plenty to eat. If not, the skies will dry up and people will starve to death. No wonder the Reform movement took that out. But there are other ways to read this paragraph as well. As I mentioned earlier, from an ecological standpoint, we have pretty much desecrated the earth that God has put into our care. And by disrespecting the natural resources of our world and exploiting them mercilessly, we're now at a point where ecological disaster is just a few degrees away. But there are yet other ways to read this passage. Rabbi David Seidenberg suggests that ethics were inextricably linked to the water source in various ancient cultures. In a place like Egypt, where water was abundantly available that could water crops through the Nile, Egyptians had no incentive or need to appeal to divine providence for rain. In contrast, in Canaan, the promised land, they depended on rainfall. As Seidenberg points out, a land that must drink from heaven, however, is a land subject to drought. And yet the Torah teaches that this is the ideal land, the land of promise, because the eyes of Yud-Heh Vav-Heh, your God, are continually upon her. This mystical sounding relationship describes a simple ecological reality, imagined from a divine perspective. The lack of human control over irrigation means that God is continually assessing whether the people merit rain. Canaan is the opposite of the land of Egypt, which can go for centuries sustained by the Nile's flooding and the technology of the pedal pump, no matter the state of the weather or the state of justice. Unlike Egypt, the feedback loop in Canaan is short and swift. The loop may be closed, the consequences felt within a season or two. And it's this very fact that everyone's tenure is tenuous that makes Canaan/Israel a holy land. Because God is constantly watching to see whether you should get rain or not, if you behave, if you act with justice. In Egypt, it didn't matter how you behaved, you always got water. And what were the conditions under which Israel was allowed to remain on the land, able to feed themselves and prosper? Rejecting idolatry, giving the land and the people a rest, and pursuing justice, especially for the widow and the orphan and the stranger. As Seidenberg points out, tying all three together was the observance of Shabbat, the weekly celebration of creation and creator, when agricultural activity stopped and animals and people rested. Shabbat, in turn, is a miniature version of the sabbatical or Shemitah year, when land ownership was annulled, when poor and rich would be sustained equally from the common food supply, when wild animals would share the produce of the land with the people, when the land would rest, and when the people would recognize God's sovereignty over the land. One could say that the purpose of religion, from the Torah's perspective, was to teach how to achieve a true symbiosis with the land. So if we don't take care of the land, it won't take care of us, vice versa, and God is watching at all times. Yet another reading is provided by Rabbi Goodman, David Goodman. He addresses the problem of the reward and punishment theology. After all, we know very well that many good people suffer and many nasty people prosper. So to deal with this dilemma, he quotes a midrash on our Torah portion. The human ability to be faithful teaches us about the faithfulness of the Holy Blessed One. For him, the reward for good behavior is not the concrete result, such as ample rain and good crops. The reward is to see a human being behaving ethically, and that's a reflection of the moral God. So the reward is not we're going to get rain and crops and all that, it's that we see a human being behaving with justice. And that should be reward enough. And here's an example that the Midrash brings, as recounted by Rabbi Goodman. Once Rabbi Shimon ben Shetach purchased a donkey of a certain Ishmaelite. His students discovered a valuable gem hanging around the neck of the donkey. And they said, "Our teacher, it's a blessing from God that you have been enriched." Rabbi Shimon ben Shetach said to them, "I bought a donkey. I did not buy a valuable gem." He went and returned it to the Ishmaelite. The Ishmaelite responded to this behavior by reciting a blessing over him. "Blessed be Adonai, the God of Shimon ben Shetach." Thus we see that the human ability to be faithful teaches us about the faithfulness of the Holy Blessed One, because we're all reflections of God, so our behavior reflects God, right? Instead of being tempted by the material good fortune and the great riches hidden in the gem that had become his own lot, Rabbi Shimon stayed true to his honest values and returned the gem to its rightful owner. At this point, the Midrash emphasizes the reaction of the seller. He immediately blesses Shimon ben Shetach and his God. The seller is so moved by the gem that was returned to him, but even more, he's amazed and filled with faith by the honesty and fairness of the rabbi. The direct encounter with a trustworthy person is greater than any reward, and it allows us to recognize the compassion that can infuse our world. This encounter reminds us that beyond power and disputes, one can remain true and find a greater purpose to our lives. The seller's blessing teaches us of the greatness of honesty in our world. The seller is an Ishmaelite and doesn't share the same religious beliefs as Rabbi Shimon ben Shetach, but this encounter encourages him to draw a direct connection between the person standing in front of him and his belief in the God in whose name he's acting. This behavior is truly a way to sanctify God's name. Our Torah portion is all about following God's mitzvot, God's commandments. Here's how Rabbi Mel Gottlieb puts it. Judaism teaches that by doing the mitzvot, which creates a God consciousness and a behavioral pattern, we create a vessel that can act in a holy way, this vessel. It's with our feet, with our movement, and actions that we can create a reminder to the world that the world is meant to be a place of beauty, splendor, and holiness, rather than a place of injustice, suffering, and meaninglessness. Our Torah portion elaborates many of these holy little deeds that creates a consciousness of connection to the magnificent cosmos. Here are some examples, beginning a meal with a bracha, a blessing, and ending it with gratitude by reciting the grace after the meal. We place a mezuzah on the doorpost as we enter our homes. These little acts, the little tasks performed regularly and faithfully by people, this is what gives the tone, content, and character to our tradition. We're not called upon to perform extraordinary things. We're asked to perform ordinary things, little things, with extraordinary consistency. So let us be the vessels that show that justice, love, and beauty are possible in our world. Ken Yehi Ratzon. So I'd like to see if anybody would like to share any simchas, any joyous occasions. Anybody first in our, okay, Carol Lee, would you need a microphone?
Oh, I don't need a microphone.
Okay, Carol Lee will shout it out to us. Okay, go ahead.
Today is Gavin's 21st birthday, and he is playing in a collegiate league. He's actually playing right now. I'm not in Temple, he's really on the ball field. But anyway,
Mazel tov.
he's doing really
That's terrific. That's terrific. Anyone else? Okay, you know what? I'm going to bring you a microphone. You're going to yell? Okay, yell. No, okay, the people at home can't hear without a microphone. So I'm going to bring you. Here you go.
My middle son, Jordan, got a job yesterday. He's an avid rock climber, and he'll be teaching children how to rock climb at an indoor gym. And he will be doing something that he truly loves. And at 24, I told him, take the job. It doesn't pay much. It will be the last time you have a job you truly love. So I hope it's not true.
Okay, anyone else? Okay.
Maybe some of us already told you that my grandson, Davy Schwitzgable, he has graduated from college, and he's soon going to go to Paris for 5 years of instruction, in, what's it called? I can't think of it. Cognitive science, thank you, yeah.
That's amazing. That's great. Did you have your hand up? No. Okay. All right, Lori. Yeah, he's graduated from college and he's on to graduate school.
I'm leaving a week from tomorrow to visit my son in San Francisco for 4 days, and my daughter-in-law, and their 2 new puppies.
Aw, enjoy. We like puppies here, right? All right, let me see. Is there anybody in our Zoom room who would like to share something? Just unmute yourself and let us know. Oh, you know what? Wait a second. Hang on. I'm going to have to put the microphone at my computer, and I'm going to have to, because we can't really hear you. Hang on 1 second. I'm going to. Okay, go ahead.
Hi. Wow, getting a little reverb here. Therese passed her licensing exam, and now she's a licensed marriage and family therapist doing EFT with couples, emotionally focused therapy.
That's terrific. Mazel tov to her. Anyone else? Okay. Very complicated. Taking one off, putting something else on. All right. All right, so first, I got to turn this down, sorry. Okay, first of all, I want to give a big thanks to Jory and Morris for their beautiful music tonight, and to Nick for, this job is really a job for about 3 people. Seriously, I mean, I did work in TV, so I do know how complicated it is to do what he's doing. Second of all, I have to see, oh, I don't have it here. Anyway, oh no, I do. I want to show you. So Jory, who goes way above and beyond, okay? Literally above and beyond. I'm going to show you why in a second. I have to find the best one, this one, okay. So, share screen, here we go. All right, can you all see that? Can you, okay, how come they can't see it at home? Or they can see it, I can see it here, okay. Can anybody see that? There it is. There's Jory up in the soffit with Nick below, putting in these wires. I know, I'm a goodness Jory, right? And so they've been wiring and setting up all of this equipment here, which is not even finished yet. This is just in process. We're gonna have a screen there, and we're probably gonna have some more speakers so that people in the back can actually hear what's going on. And it's just like, I mean, Jory, you've gone way above and beyond. And Nick, we're so fortunate to have you and your talent here. So thank you so much for everything that you've done. As I said, we're in process. Okay, stop share, right? Okay, I see there's some Nick rocks. Yes, Lori Reiser says Nick rocks. Okay, Thanks, Nick, and the music is gorgeous tonight, Christine says. And Randy Lester Wilson says, we wholeheartedly confer, Christine, we're most grateful. And Temple Bethel Riverside says, glad you can all hear it. And I guess that's you, yes, Nick. I'm white knuckling it until I hear the audio on the YouTube stream. So, you know, there are 2 cameras that each, they're called PTZ, so they pan, tilt, and zoom, okay? And so there are a lot of different angles and shots that you can pick. That's enough for one person. Then there's the audio issue. All of these, which obviously you hear a buzz, that's gonna have to be fixed, but there's also the audio coming from Zoom, which we're working on. He's live streaming it, and then on top of making sure that all that's happening, he's gotta change the slides. And he doesn't happen to know the liturgy, which makes it very challenging. Anyway, so what is that thing going across the screen? Okay. Oh, the panning, okay. So, you know, it's really a true truly masterful job. And so what we're trying to do is, leading up to the high holidays, assuming we can be here, which as the Delta variant goes, we're, you know, every day, who knows what's gonna happen? We're working on it, you know, and we probably won't know really until like a few days before what we can really do. But at the moment, we're planning on having stuff here. Please remember to RSVP if you haven't, because we're gonna do limited seating so that people can distance, okay? Andrea's handling all of that, and that's another huge, huge job, which is to figure out how many people we can keep in and how many to accept and not. And, you know, we wanna make sure that we're also open to other people who are not members, but we wanna give priority to our members, so it's all very, very complicated. Next week, our service is gonna be on Zoom only because this gentleman is not gonna be available, and I have tried a number of different people to do the singing, and no one's available except for my husband. And he just had knee surgery 2.5 weeks ago, and he can sing. Yes, it's great that he had knee surgery, but he can't really come in here and do the service. So we're gonna do it at home. I apologize that we can't do it live, you know, in person, but there you go. We'll give everybody a chance to kind of breathe a little bit and work on some of the technical issues. Because as I said, this is only the second time we've done it this way, and you know, there are all kinds of little kinks that need to be worked out. Okay, do you guys have anything you want to add? No? Anybody else want to add anything? At home? No. Everybody's happy? As happy as we can be under the circumstances, because seriously, it's been a challenge for everybody, as you know. So we have to enjoy being together this way now as long as we can do it. And it's a good thing we're all vaccinated, because that does help a lot. Okay, we're going to continue with the Aleinu. Oh, we need to have some people open the Ark. Leela and Dan, would you like to open the Ark? And it's in the inside of your prayer book if you want to do it that way, or you can look up at the screen.
We're getting a good buzz. Thank you. The in-person audience is appreciative of my humor. I appreciate that very much. Thank you very much. Well, there was that one live service where we had good feedback as well. Okay. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים, לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד ארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובהי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, emet valkenu efes ulato, kakatuv betorato, v'yadata hayom v'hashevota elevavecha, ki Adonai hua Elohim, bashamayim imal, ve'aretz mitachat einod. Kakatuv betoratecha Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed, v'ne'emar ve'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz, bayom hahu yiyeh Adonai echad, Ushemo echad.
We tricked you there, Nick, because there was an extra line that's not in. I'm sorry. Yeah. To keep you on your toes. It's that light inside, I guess. He did. You may be seated. I know some rabbis who aren't doing any more hugging, but it's hard to just go, oh, hi, far away. So we take a moment now to think of those who are no longer with us. May their memories be for a blessing. And we offer our condolences to Avi Altman on the passing of his husband, Harel Altman. We're observing Shiva for David Philip Altstadt, father of Stacy Altstadt, and for Stan Walkman, brother of Ruth Landis. Anybody else observing Shiva Shloshim or the first year of mourning? Yes? Anybody here? Albert Archibek, Shloshim Jimmy Murphy, first year Janine Lester, Dina Eliason, Julie Eliason, Mardell Taylor, Ozell Waltman. Sanford Victor, first year, Rabbi Bennett Herman, Heshi Glick. We also, did you have? We're observing yard sites this Shabbat for Ralph Stroman, Walter Brandler, Walt Fitzhugh, Natasha Horowitz, Rick Welt, Erwin Werner, Hyman Taylor, Harold Hopkins, Walter Magnus, Ruben Sorosky, Pearl Rollins, Richard Bath, Joan Krieger, Murray Krieger, Albert Rubian, Harold Hausman, Isadora Kapolsky, Rose Redpath, Isadore Kussner, Jerome Rice, Matilda Levy, Jack Reef, Shirley Droutman, Hy Droutman. Are there any other yard sites this Shabbat? Anybody on Zoom have a yard site? And of course, we think of those who perished in the Holocaust and have no one to say the mourner's Kaddish for them. It's on page 598 and on the screen. And if those on the Zoom would like to unmute, feel free to do so and join us. Yikadal v'yikadash shemei rabbah, v'yalmad yivrach chechutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayachon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kariv imru amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mevarach le'olam u'almei almaya. Yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar, v'yitromam, v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar, v'yitale, v'yitalal, shemei dekudashah, b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya, V'chaim Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael, V'imru, Amen. Oseh Shalom Bimromav, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom, Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael, V'imru, Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn, and comfort to all who are bereaved, as together we say, Amen. And our closing song is Al Shlosha Devarim, on three things the world stands. And this actually comes from the fact that once upon a time, the religion was based on a temple in Jerusalem, on a Davidic king sitting on the throne, and on the land of Israel. And when we were tossed out of the land, the rabbis had to reinvent what the pillars of our Judaism were going to be. And so they came up with three new things: Torah, which is our Torah, but also teaching and learning; Avodah, worship; and Gemilut Chasadim, acts of loving kindness. And that's how we transform the religion.
Al Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim, Ha'olam Omed, Ha'olam Omed, Al HaTorah Ve'al ha'avodah, ve'al gemilut chasadim. Al ha'torah, ve'al ha'avodah, ve'al gemilut chasadim. Ve'al gemilut chasadim. Al Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim, Ha'olam Omed, Ha'olam Omed, on three things, on three things the world stands. Al Shlosha Devarim, Ha'olam Omed, Ha'olam Omed, Ha'olam Omed.
And we do have a motzi. Beautiful challah here.
Whoa! Oh, I can touch it? I'm going to touch it. Hamotzi lechem min haaretz, we give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom. See you on Zoom next week. Nick, you can stop live streaming it, but if people on Zoom want to continue being together and talking, you guys are welcome to hang out.